Why do high performers suddenly burn out? Hint, caregiving might be the missing link. You know the story. Your top performer, the one who never misses deadlines, takes on extra work, mentors others, starts canceling meetings. They seem tired, distracted, and then suddenly they hand in their notice. And you're left wondering, how did we miss this? Why didn't they just say anything? What just happened? Here's a possibility you might not have considered. Maybe they were caregiving silently for months and it finally broke them. Today we're asking, why do high performers burn out without warning? And how often is hidden caregiving the missing? If we haven't met, I'm Dr. Anna Thomas. I'm a physician, leadership speaker, caregiver advocate, and corporate wellness specialist. I help organizations strengthen their workforce and create workplaces where people and performance can thrive together. Even as we enter an era of AI, automation, and agentic teams, the future of work is still human, and that work is changing dramatically. But at the same time, employees are navigating complex personal and professional pressures that are only going to escalate in the coming years. For example, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, we will see an exponential increase in the number of older adults who will need caregiving support. Who will be providing that care? Working adults. Right now, 63 million Americans are caregivers. That's 1 in 4 adults, with more than half of them currently working full-time. Those numbers are expected to increase and will have a tremendous impact on our communities and, yes, even our workplaces. And caregiving is just one example of a personal stressor that will impact the workplace. Mental health, chronic illness, stress, and burnout are all on the rise, and the organizations that will thrive are those that lead with care, culture, awareness, resources, and empowerment. Care. Through this series, I share practical strategies, leadership tools, and insights to help you create cultures that support well-being, strengthen engagement, and retain top talent. If you'd like a clear starting point, then check out my free training, The Future of Work is Care. The link is below. And while you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this with another leader who is ready to build a workplace that cares. Let's get into today's topic. I've supported professionals on both sides of the story. Leaders blindsided by a high performer's exit, and employees who quietly carried care responsibilities until they collapsed. And I can tell you, this kind of burnout rarely starts at work. It often starts from multiple responsibilities in multiple areas of life. And when caregiving becomes overwhelming, and work keeps expecting more, and the culture says nothing, that's when your star employees reach their limit. Not because they're weak, not because they were never supported, not because they're weak, but because they were never supported and they never felt safe enough to share. Let's break down why this happens and how to change it. You might think that your top talent is the least likely to burn out, and here's why they can often be the most at risk. They pride themselves on reliability. They're the ones that typically take on extra work. They don't want to appear needy. They want to appear capable. So when their caregiving life ramps up, they try to absorb that as well, quietly. And because they're so good at holding it all together, nobody notices they're unraveling until it's too late. They won't be the first to ask for help. They'll be the first to hit a wall and then walk away. Caregiving doesn't just take time. It takes mental energy, emotional bandwidth, logistical planning, constant decision-making. And when none of that is acknowledged or supported, it can become like an invisible tax. Here's what it looks like. They're managing a medical crisis during lunch breaks. They're waking up early to make care arrangements before work. They're responding to urgent calls while pretending that everything is fine in a meeting. On paper, they're performing, but inside, they're unraveling. And if they don't feel safe disclosing, they're not going to say a word until they hand in that resignation. Most burnout interventions in the workplace, they are reactive. They happen after someone's performance dips or after they leave. Hidden caregiving, it rarely shows up in the metrics, and therefore it's hard to respond to it. When does it show up? It shows up in moments, missed deadlines, turned down promotions, fatigue that gets labeled as low energy or lack of focus. And if your culture never asks about caregiving or other life responsibilities, if it never names it, tracks it, or trains your leaders to see it, it's no wonder it stays hidden until the breaking point. So how do you intervene early without overstepping? because you don't want to pry into people's personal lives. But you have to create a culture where caregiving isn't a secret. That means normalizing conversations about it, letting your team know that it's safe and it's smart to surface what they're balancing. Training your leaders and your managers, equipping them to spot early signs of burnout and ask informed check-in questions. And third, offer flexible support systems, policies that can adjust workloads, timelines, or expectations before someone is in full crisis mode. Look for patterns. Look for who's turning down growth opportunities, who's using leave without explanation, who's stepping back from visibility. That's where burnout often hides. And if you want to build a culture where caregiving doesn't cost you your top performance, start with my free training, The Future of Work is Care. You're going to learn about the tools, the resources, this way that you can support your best employees to prevent burnout by building smarter systems. The link is below. And if you haven't checked out my book, Workplaces That Care, be sure to pick it up on Amazon. It's your playbook for building a resilient workplace that supports and retains caregiving employees. Before you go, if you've lost someone you didn't expect to lose, like a high performer who walked away and you never saw it coming, if you're wondering how to stop it from happening again, then start by asking, what was happening that we didn't talk about? Because care was probably there, just wasn't visible. And your culture didn't make it safe to name. You don't need perfect policies. You need presence. You need language. You need to make it something that employees don't have to carry in silence. That's how you keep them. That's how you help them lead. In the next video, we're going to talk about how are millennials and Gen Z impacted by caregiving. We'll explore how the youngest generations in the workforce are shouldering massive care burdens, often earlier than expected, and what your workplace needs to know now. While you're waiting, watch this video. How can managers empower employees to balance real life without burning out? Remember, in this age of AI, the future of work is still human. Let's create workplaces that care.